Bryan Adams' favorite movie, The Summer of '69, which is a American comedy film directed by Jillian Bell. Jillian Bell is an actress, but this is her, and she's been in a whole bunch of stuff that you've seen. Like I said, if you don't know who Jillian Bell is, sure you do. She was in Bridesmaids. She was in 22 Jump Street, which I think she's either been nominated or won a bunch of awards for. She's done some voice work, like in the Angry Birds movie. I think she's most known, and she was the executive producer for Brittany Runs a Marathon. She plays Dr. Taylor Wood in Bill and Ted Face the Music. She was just recently in Good Burger 2, Candy Cane Lane. She's Kate in Kinda Pregnant. You guys should remember her from that. She was also, as far as television goes, she used to be on SNL. She's been in like Gravity Falls, Drunk History, Bob's Burgers. So whether or not you realize you know her, you know who she is. This is her directorial debut. The movie was written by herself, Liz Nico, and Jules Byrne. It stars Chloe Fineman, Sam Morello, and Matt Cornett. It premiered at the 2025 South by Southwest TV and Film Festival and was released on Hulu May 9th, 2025, just opposite Nona's, in case you were wondering. This is about 100 minutes, and it's got a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes, believe it or not. So, any thoughts about this before I try to speed through a plot synopsis, Mac?
Just that for I'm going to call this a low budget. It's not really a low budget movie, but for a movie that didn't command millions and millions of dollars, they broke some rules regarding making this kind of sympathetic character, and I'll go over that when I get to the review itself. I was kind of proud of them for that.
Mick, you're a young woman, but you have an old soul, and so I wonder, between the soul and your actual chronological age, are you aware of the teen raunchy sex comedy?
I am. Actually, I really liked this movie. It's probably going to be one of my favorites of the year.
This, I'll tell you, we'll get into more of this as we discuss it. But I am as you know from the triple feature I did with Dorian, where we did Hard Bodies, Spring Break, and 10. I am a fan of the raunchy sex comedy, the teen raunchy sex comedy, as a matter of fact. I have reviewed all the Porky's movies at length, intellectually. I'm
sorry. Did I laugh out loud?
I have not gotten around to Revenge of the Nerds yet, but a couple years ago, what's her name? Jennifer, Hunger Games.
Lawrence.
Thank you. She did a movie that was like a real throwback to the raunchy sex comedy. The name is escaping me. I'll look it up in a second. But like, it was so like I've had this conversation over the years about how the raunchy sex comedy coming out of the 70s and was prominent in the 80s kind of dies by the time we get to the 2000s. Like, American Pie is probably like the last, in the Van Wilder, Animal House movies, were kind of like the death throes of that style, and it got utterly replaced by the drug movie,
stoner comedy.
Yeah, the stoner comedies, and then we never really got away from that. And the world, the American Western culture doesn't seem to want it, but I think we're sorely lacking it. And I'm glad. And it's weird because this movie is absolutely a throwback to that era, but it is a raunchy teen sex comedy without the raunchy sex. Which it's like this is an Israeli-Palestinian compromise if I've ever seen.
Well said. Very well said.
We'll give it to you, but we're not going to give it to you. Like, all right, what are we doing this for then? Because they're all people and they must have a place to live. That's why. All right, fair enough. So, with that said, Summer of '69 goes a little something like this. We have a girl in the world, and she likes a boy, and the boy is pretty, and the girl is awkward. She's a Twitch streamer, and she has got protective parents, and she just doesn't know how to get this boy to like her. So she says, so she talks to the town snitch, and she says, "Snitch, tell me his secrets." And she says, "Well, he likes the '69. How about that?" And she says, And she says, 60 what now? And she's like, well, I don't even know where to begin. And so over on the other side of town, on the wrong side of the tracks, is a blonde ne'er-do-well gal who works in a dirty strip club. And that dirty strip club is run by a moron. And so that moron owes the mob about $20,000 to keep the place open. And if she doesn't, and now we have our ticking time bomb. So if she doesn't pay the mob back, and within a week, then she loses the whole thing to the evil mob boss. And so our blonde ne'er-do-well dancer says, "But what if I am able to raise the money and save the club? Will you let me be the owner, and we can continue to work here?" And she says, "If you can manage it, you can have it." So it just so happens that our two leads find each other. Our young girl is in need of a sex coach, and the sex coach is in need of a rich girl, as often as these things play out. So she says, "All right, if you teach me how to be sexy and how to woo this boy in '69, then I will give you $20,000. She says, fantastic. School's in session. So over the course of a week, because that's all these movies need is a week, these two become friends. They be mentors. We have a lot of fun together. They know each other a little bit better now. But oh no, there is an obstacle, and that obstacle is the girl doesn't have the money, and our other dancer girl, she we learn about her over time that she because she relied on her beauty, she did not grow any skills or a personality, and she feels bad about herself. So they end up in a fight. They break up, and the girl goes to woo the boy by herself, now being a master of the '69. And our blonde friend goes to her high school reunion. And as it turns out, as we all find out in late adulthood, life sucks and nothing gets any better. All of our dreams dashed upon the rocks.
Absolutely.
What you make will dash. Yes.
Yes. And she says, "Well, I feel a little bit better now. I didn't make all the wrong choices." And so the girl with the boy, she goes to say, "All right, as hard as I've tried here, I cannot 69 you." And he went, You misunderstand, madam. It's not that I like the sexual position 69. It's having to do with sports. And she goes,
hockey player.
Yeah. Oh, so she says, "Oh, well, I feel sheepish now." and he says, "Don't feel sheepish, young gal. I like you just the same. Oh, and by the way, I'm a virgin too, so we can both be equals." And she says, "Well, that's fantastic." But then she finds out that our blonde dancer friend doesn't have the money for the mortgage on the farm, and so she gets all the 18-year-olds at this party to go to the strip club, and she does, because this was set up earlier in the movie, a play on Tom Cruise's Risky Business, that old-time rock and roll, and she dances like a mannequin that was shocked, with electricity.
That's a great scene.
There is a Japanese wrestler. It's a sex doll, and there's a guy moving the sex doll around, and a lot of times the guy will just be outside the ring, and he's dressed in all black like you would if you were a stagehand. And the wrestlers will just work with the doll, and they'll throw it hither and yon and kick it into the ocean and stuff. That's kind of how she dances. She's like a Japanese sex doll being kicked around by some Indian wrestler. Horrible. Anyway,
she always starts in the right place, but then she veers away.
Yeah, the very definition of teen awkwardness. So anyway, they raise just enough money to make it interesting, but not enough to win the day. However, because our young dancer friend had made a friend at the reunion,
class reunion,
as it turns out, her husband is a big fan of the stripper, so he gives her the money, and all's well that ends well. They're able to save the club. And that's it. They've made up. The club is saved. The boy is wooed, and they all lived happily ever after. I will go first to you again, Mick. What did you think of the summer of '69?
Like I was saying earlier, this is I think one of my favorite movies of the year it's gonna be, because I enjoyed the comedy of this. I was afraid it was gonna be more of the awkward comedy.
Yeah, like secondhand embarrassment kind comedy.
Yeah.
I'm cringy.
But I kept watching, and it was funny throughout. I was enjoying myself. This falls under the Wanamaker compromise. had a thought at some point of watching the movie. I was like, there is no way that a strip club would let 18-year-olds in there. Period.
This is less believable than the never-ending story. What is this fantasy?
These interactions would not be happening at all. But I did find it interesting that the teenagers in the movie actually look like teenagers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Nobody looks like they're 25 playing a 15-year-old.
Exactly. It wasn't like my first thought was Troy Bolton of High School Musical. It was like, he looks 30.
He does.
But I really, my favorite part of this movie was probably the ending. Because, I'm talking like, and I'm going to straight up spoil this, but like the 80s feel of the boyfriend pulling up, or I guess the interest pulling up in the car, playing the music, and then they finally have the first kiss.
Yay.
Yep.
It was like, that was very sweet, and I enjoyed that. And I'm definitely going to be watching this movie again and again.
This is a feel-good movie.
It is a feel-good movie, and I need more of those in my life.
I do understand. I think we all need some of that.
It's a big, like I keep saying, it's a big reason why I've been doing these is because this is where I'm finding stuff I really enjoy and doesn't, you seen Damn You Hollywood lately? I look like by the end of it, I'm going to shoot myself. So.
A little?
Well, that's why you call it Damn You Hollywood. It's not, gosh, I'm happy about things.
Yeah, exactly. But but that's why I do these, because I'm finding stuff that reminds me I enjoy movies in this category than I am in this typical stuff we do in Damn You Hollywood. Mac, what'd you think of the summer of '69?
Well, like you, I was kind of shocked in my seat that this was a classic teen summer sex movie and sex comedy. And, that was something you saw a lot in the 70s, but then it dwindled away into other things. People got mad at it because it was consequence-free. People were having all this fun, and no one was getting pregnant or diseases or stuff. So it died. And then here it is, bam, right in front of us. And the way they got away with a lot of that was, you're right, they left the raunch out. They promised it in the title. I mean, but there's a whole lot of innuendo. People speak raunchy, but the doing of the raunchy things, if it happens at all, it's off camera. And
it reminds me of Superbad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I thought when I realized what they were doing, I thought, okay, well then they're gonna go through every cliche thing that they did in the 70s. The young innocent girl is going to look like a supermodel that they've put a bad wig on and glasses, who she will later reveal that she's so beautiful. And oh my God, we didn't see that. But with San Morelos, I think I'm saying it right. She actually looks teenage. She's not a refined actress model. She's cute, but I mean, she's just a healthy girl with a great smile. And the glasses are not going to come off and reveal a supermodel. It's not going to happen. And they did the same thing with Santa Monica. Here's this stripper. Well, this is not going to be some famous Hollywood body beautiful. This girl's she's beautiful, but she's a little flat-chested. She's not the curvy hourglass that you would see in all those summer sex movies. And she's not why is she dancing here? She should be in New York or LA. And yet here she is in Podunk, wherever they are. So they broke all of that. And then the biggest thing they broke is the first thing you mentioned. They promised all these nude people dangling out of cars with genitals flapping in the breeze. All that, we were waiting. People who had seen those movies, we were waiting for that to happen, almost in some distress. And they didn't go there. Even when the actress, the lead, gets a moment alone with her guy, and they realize that 69 is a hockey player's jersey number, and they begin to kiss. She goes, "Oh, wait a minute!" And she leaves the room. And good God, man, we're not going to get past hand holding here. And they don't kiss till the end. And it's like, okay. And again, it's not an experienced, ravenous kiss. It's I'm just now learning how to kiss with you. It was sweet. It was innocent. It was completely beautiful. And it's not what you expect from summer of '69. So they broke a whole lot of rules. And by the end, I was simply delighted with it.
Simply delighted is a great phrase, because that's about my one take review of the summer of '69. It was just wonderful. Just simply delightful. By the way, the Jennifer Lawrence movie I was referring to earlier is No Hard Feelings, which that at least had a naked Jennifer Lawrence punching people on the beach, but which is worth the price.
Which I enjoyed immensely, by the way.
Yes, but yeah, this I enjoy movies like this, and I think that it wasn't ruined by gross out humor. It wasn't ruined by a lot of. I mean, like her awkwardly dancing is about the cringiest as it gets, but but because she's earned the right to dance awkward, and for you to go there, sweetie. It's you tried your best. You know,
That was brave. That was so brave of her.
yeah.
Because in the first scene, she sees the stripper dancing like that, and she's stunned. And here she is, zero experience, zero understanding, wearing looks like a long sleeve shirt, and she's after it, man. She starts in the right place, and then she slides down the pole, or she leans over on all fours, and she can barely wiggle. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Like, it's harder than people think, and that's exactly what a regular teenager would be doing.
Yep.
This movie had more layers to it than I think the average like this. This wasn't, again, the problem with the raunchy sex comedy of the 80s was a lot of them were just an excuse to put tits and ass on screen.
Yeah.
And there wasn't much more to them than that, which is, I think, another reason why they died out. This was about something. This was, I mean, the movies that are done well, these are movies about finding one's confidence. Not just the teen girl who lacks it, such to the point that she feels she needs a coach in order to woo a boy, but you have the stripper Santa Monica, who also lacks confidence. Now there she is. She's a sex bomb, sex kitten. She is all out there being and you would think that because you dance naked you have confidence. Meanwhile, she feels like she's failed at life, that she's ashamed of what she's become, and while she's comfortable with it, she feels like she'll be judged by those around her, and so she doesn't want to engage with the outside world. I think it's something that's readily relatable for a lot of people, is that feeling sometimes that like you peaked in high school. Like it's never getting any better than it was your senior year of high school, and that is a hard pill to swallow at times. Or even if it's not quite that bad, but you had such high hopes and you had to settle for mediocrity. It's a hard thing to live with, and it's a hard thing to go back and tell people about until you realize a lot of people are going through it. Every day I am reminded that my life is not that bad. I am not the only divorced dad on the planet, and people have it so much worse than I do. So I just go, I'm fine. It's good. I'm grateful. Shut up. Don't do anything else to me. So the girl, not a traditional lead in movies like this, but that's okay. We're a changing world. We're a changing time. And I think it was nice to kind of be outside of that. We cry so much about like race and gender and sexuality swapping. And we always say, well, if you want non-hetero white people or white males to be the lead in your movies, then go make new characters. So then so that's what this movie did. This wasn't based on anything. This didn't take someone's canon and switch it around. They decided to write a familiar story, but a story. And they said, well, here's going to be our lead girl in it. And she's great. She actually has a lot of charisma. And she has a lot of earnest, which I think is important in a role like that. And in Santa Monica is likable from the beginning. You are waiting for her to hatch from her cocoon and be a butterfly and fly away. And so when she finally does, you're rewarded for having spent time watching this movie, which is nice. I really don't have my only two complaints about this movie. If you put a gun to my head and said, "Aren't you the guy from Damn You Hollywood? You have to complain about movies." Complain, or I won't be able to sleep tonight. It's a little too familiar. Like this plot, it is big bone stuff we've all seen 1,000 times before, with a little bit of window dressing that they play with the idea of '69, and it's like it's if somebody wanted to make an older version of this movie, but they didn't want to do a remake, so they changed a few things, crossed out the title, and went voila, new movie. So, not the most original concept I've ever seen, and none of the beats were all that original either. It kind of takes from this kind of movie's playbook, But again, you throw a good enough performance in there and earnest and everything else, and I'll go along for the ride. I'm perfectly fine with a song I've heard before that I've liked before, but it's not quite the same. The other thing is, this seemed like a reach. It's like we're gonna call the movie Summer of '69. Why? Because this girl thinks she has a '69 this guy. Did you start with a title and work your way backwards? Is that what happened here? It's just like, wouldn't it be funny if? And then we're like, we need a real movie to match the title and this absurd idea you have. Instead of,
if the title's good enough, that's not necessarily a bad idea.
I hear you, and that's why I'm not banging my fist on here like, in a shoe, like Khrushchev going, what the fuck with this movie? I'm just saying, some movies you start with an idea and write forward, or others you have a title and write backwards. This feels like the latter.
Yeah. I've seen entire movies written to present a scene. There's this one scene and it's brilliant, and they write movie before it, they write movie after it, and that's what it's for.
Which sometimes you can get away with that, and sometimes you can't. But all right, Mick, I'll give you the last. You're looking so quizzical. You're like old man saying,
Mick, you're quizzical. Congratulations.
I was like, I do that with paintings though, because like I've had a couple paintings that I've done that were like, this sounds cool. How would I do that? And that's why I was like thinking about it.
He was piecing together. How would I do that?
I was like, Anyway.
All right, I'll give you the last words here, guys. On Summer of '69. Mick, your thoughts?
Loved it. 10 out of 10. I'd watch again. Wanamaker compromise this.
Fantastic.
I loved it. Probably for different reasons, but if they served someone as young as her and as old as me, they did a damn good job.
Oh yeah.